talk to people around here who are like, they know you, and they're like, man, the stuff he's doing out there is crazy.
Yeah, it's definitely can be brutal. Don't touch the cactus. In fact, I've learned don't touch any plants. They all have attitude.
If you're gonna have a little pity party, turn the corner before you have a pity party. Don't let anyone see it. Sometimes that's all you need to do is beat them mentally in order to beat them in the actual race.
Being in Arizona has caused me to love running more than I ever thought that I would, really. You know, I've met a lot of people out here that have really piqued my interest in running and trail running specifically.
It's my favorite local backyard place to run. Welcome to Arizona. As I get further and further and closer, there's just more doubt keeps creeping in and creeping in. As I finally hit the road, you don't see an aid station tent in sight, and I am completely off course. 94, 95 miles into the day, I really thought I went from being in first on course record pace in the biggest ultra in North America to going to third and fourth, and a whole slew of great ultra runners running right past me. At the time, I just was like, all right, I'm gonna sit down and at least take 5 minutes and take a breather. Kind of the lesson learned is once you sit down that late, everything starts tightening up, everything starts quitting on you. Western States got me in 2016, and it's more personal going forward now with it. I really look at Western States as kind of my big goal this year. I want to win. That's definitely goal number one, no matter what. And I want to race it in all the way to the line. That's a big lesson learned from last year. But course record's on my mind, and I've even publicly and repeatedly said I think sub 14 hours on Western States is totally possible. I'm really got my fingers crossed that it's not going to be like a snow or asterisk type year, but I've also thought about it, and I'm like, if the course is faster, you know what, I'm going to take every minute from it, and instead of 14 hours, I'll go 13:50. Something like that. I'll take those free minutes and I'll put them in the bank. But then bigger picture for the year too, after Western States, I really want to rebound and give Ultra Trail Mount Blanc in September a really big go. The best Europeans are racing that race, and no American male has ever won it. So today we're running on the Scottsdale Sonoran Preserve, McDowell Mountain Regional Park kind of area. It's around Thompson Peak, Tom's Thumb, Bell Pass, East End. These are trails that are about 15 minutes away from where I grew up. It's my favorite local backyard place to run. The saguaro cactus are beautiful, and there's tons of flowers that are blooming right now.
Such a coffeeaholic, it's terrible.
Running's given me a real sense of purpose that I was lacking for a while. It adds structure to my life. I can consistently say, I'm going to get up in the morning and I'm going to go run. It really sets my day so that I know that, okay, I got my exercise done, I feel good, and now I can move on to the next part of my day. I didn't really get that from a lot of other aspects of my life. So I'm originally from Portland, Maine. I grew up there. You know, I came from a pretty athletic family, and my dad was a runner, my brother was a runner, so I started probably when I was about 10. We did really everything that was outdoors oriented. So canoes, kayaking, hiking, cycling, running, and it really gave me a love of the outdoors and sort of a need to explore. And I kind of stopped running in high school, focusing on different interests. You know, as I got into school and they offered band programs and things like that, I ultimately picked up the saxophone and really just fell in love with that instrument. I mean, when I was in college, it was 6 hours a day, 6 days a week, you know, in a hole, basically. I stayed local for college in Maine as well, and that's where my wife and I met, was in college. My wife's a personal trainer, and she's actually one of the people that really got me back into running after I had taken a break. You know, and she really inspired me to run my first half marathon and to say, like, you know, we can do this together. And subsequently, I've now run 2 half marathons. About 3 years ago, I was working with a Fleet Feet store in Portland and had the opportunity to move from Portland here to Scottsdale to help open this Fleet Feet store. Being in Arizona has caused me to love running more than I ever thought that I would, really. There's just a very diverse terrain out here. The weather obviously makes it accessible year-round. You know, I've met a lot of people out here that have really piqued my interest in running and trail running specifically. It definitely can be brutal. You have to, you know, heed the advice that anybody gives you when you go out on the trail, that don't touch the cactus. In fact, I've learned don't touch any plants. They all have attitude and want to hurt you. The snake issue, I personally have only seen a couple of snakes since living here, but it's something to just be aware of. I know in the springtime that's a really big issue, and you know, you just have to pay attention to what you're doing when you're out on the trails.
I've been coming here for, I guess, 5 to 10 years, but usually post-run, it'll be like that meal of finally get like real food now that I finished my run for the day. It's pretty close to where my high school is and where I grew up and stuff, and a lot of my runs actually, I still start like by running to my high school and then doing the route from my high school. It's just kind of out of habit, and I end up running more road miles that way, but it's just how I like doing it.
Yeah, it feels natural.
It feels right.
Yeah.
Does the cross-country team sort of recognize you as a notable alumni?
Yeah, I think so, a little bit. I mean, I was a state champ and stuff in high school, so even in high school, I think I was like one of the just natural leaders on the team, but we also had probably 5 guys under 430 in high school at the time, which was pretty good. I don't know if that's really common now. It just seems like high school's crazy fast now compared to when I was running.
Do you stay involved at all with your high school, the coaches, the team?
Occasionally. So my high school coach actually moved just a couple houses down from where my parents live. So like I'll walk over to his house and go grab a beer with him.
You can do that now.
Yeah, I can do that now.
How much research do you do and like attention do you pay to what the course terrain is? Like, do you study beforehand and know like there's going to be hills?
So I think as I've had more pressure to probably keep winning now, I've gotten a lot better and more consistent on actually taking like a note card or a piece of paper, writing out the elevation profile of the race, and then I mark out where the aid stations are on that. And it might be copying a map that already exists, but I think there's a really good, it's an exercise that I do, so I still write it out by hand. What I like doing too is kind of breaking down the average paces for splits in between aid stations if that information's available. Like all of these segments just kind of become a plus-minus game. And it's like, if you can keep kind of just beating these splits and these average paces, you're gonna make up time on those goals, and then all of a sudden, over a whole day, that adds up to 10, 20, 30 minutes. Now you've ran a really, really consistent day because you've had a ballpark estimate of the effort you should be running.
the life kind of looks like I get up typically pretty early, especially if I have to work. I know that I need to get my runs done before I go to work. So I'll go run generally for, anywhere from an hour to 2. Then I can get back home, get showered, and then if I have to head to work, sometimes I'll hop on the bike and commute that way. It's only, a few miles from here to work. Being in Scottsdale in the Phoenix area, there's always something to do. It's definitely a metropolitan area, so, any night of the week, if you're looking for something to do, you don't have to go very far to find it. And yeah, running communities are definitely different. East Coast in Maine, it's a lot more road running, whereas here there's a much bigger trail community. There's a lot more trails that are accessible right from the city. We see a lot more ultra runners, 50K up to 100 miles, and definitely more geared towards that side of things. So we have 2 running groups that meet on Monday, Wednesday. We have our beginner no boundaries group, which essentially is, a 5K program, a beginner 5K program. And then we also have just a fun run group that meets here, and they're running somewhere between 4 and 6 miles. We call it the loop or the square. Basically, it does a big loop around the store here.
Downhill running's something I've really started to focus on a lot since I've gotten into the sport, because my fascination is, in my opinion, I think American ultra running and the runners in our sport here in the US are better and more fit than the Europeans, but the Europeans whoop us on these mountainous technical trails, and it was really odd to me, because I came into the belief of the best runners are the best runners are the best runners, and if they learn how to run a trail well enough, they should run away from everyone. But that wasn't the case when you compared them in Ultra Trail Mont Blanc or these shorter technical races of why are the Europeans running away? And you see Americans get to the top of these big nasty climbs a couple minutes ahead, but by the time they get back to down to the bottom, they're 8 minutes behind, and you're just like, what happened? And essentially, the Europeans have a different mindset and a different style to their racing. They're really bombing down the downhills and kind of recovering and taking it easy on the uphills, while the Americans are kind of opposite, because where do you get your best workout? How do you show you're the fittest guy out there? You're the first one to the top of the hill. But I feel like I'm changing the game in the fact that not only can I push the Americans on the uphills, I feel like I can also challenge and push the Europeans on the descents, and I really want to do that and take a more well-rounded, full approach to ultra running. And I think it's really about showing a lack of weaknesses and being a well-rounded trail runner.
So that's an Arizona Diamondback rattlesnake right there that we just almost stepped on. Looks like it's getting a little more relaxed and going its own way now, but yeah, we just ran past that.
There's such a huge connection and peacefulness, especially when you find yourself isolated out on the trails. When you do get away from other people, and literally you're an hour or 2 hours without seeing anyone else on the trails. Or I can go run with a couple buddies on some backyard trail adventures, and you literally just feel like you're exploring, you're finding new places, and it's just really rewarding. It's really inspiring to get out the door, and it keeps you motivated to keep training.